Welcome back to There's a Workshop for That. I'm absolutely so happy about today's episode because we are diving into the latest trends and insight from the facilitation world. And who better to guide us than Deborah Rim Moiso from SessionLab. Deborah, you were here last year. At the same time, I think it's exactly a year ago, and we were talking about the State of Facilitation Report 2024. And today, you will give us a peek into the edition of 2025. Hi, Deborah. How have you been?
Hello, Nathi. It's so nice to be back. I think I remember we promised in the last year's episode that we would do another episode this year. Maybe we can do the same again. It is so nice to be back. I can't believe it's been a year, and I'm very, very happy you invited me. And hello to everybody listening.
So I'm in Bali. You are in Italy.
That is correct. I haven't asked you what time it is. It is 9 a.m. here. I'm caffeinated. I've had breakfast, and it's a very rainy day, not at all warm and sunny as one thinks about Italy generally, but that's how it is. I'm in central Italy, my favorite place in the world. And what time is it where you are?
It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not raining right now in Bali, so it's warm, but it's rainy season. So it may be possible that suddenly there is a storm and it will rain, but we will hope that for the next 40 minutes it will not have.
Storms aside, what could be more perfect to talk about a global report than being on two different sides of the world, sharing a common language and sharing a common passion for this work we do? It's perfect.
Absolutely. And to kick things off, can you tell me a little bit more about you, about SessionLab, and about this report? I think this is the 3rd edition. Right?
That is correct. It is the 3rd edition. Absolutely. So my name is Deb. I am both American and Italian. That's why I can speak English like this, which is usually unexpected to people when they hear that I'm in Italy. I am 42 years old. I am a freelance facilitator. And at the same time, I am a copy editor for SessionLab. Mm-hmm. So let me unpack those 2 sentences. So I'm a freelance facilitator working mostly in with public organizations, lately mostly with environmental protection. So I get people together in a room to discuss how are we going to manage this wonderful resource, which is, say, a park or, the natural area where people live. And I have been practicing facilitation since 2009 and absolutely love it. And then I got incredibly lucky. I think 3 years ago, I saw a job offer for SessionLab, which is a company making software for facilitators. Mm-hmm. If people listening don't know it, go check it out. Besides the software, which is, you'll find out if you facilitate, it's really great. Useful.
It's great. I couldn't live without this. But besides that, there is a big community and a lot of resources.
Exactly. We really, I know that sounds corny, but we really care in SessionLab to spread facilitation in the world. So there's lots of resources for beginners, resources for more experienced facilitators, templates you can use, and it's the home of the State of Facilitation Report. So for the past 3 years, we've been putting together a big global survey of people who facilitate around the world. And then from the results of that survey, we put together a comprehensive report with trends and data and expert contributions. You were a contributor last year.
Yeah.
We try to switch things around. So we change contributors around a bit. You can probably be a contributor again another year.
I would love to, but I think there is a lot of great skilled facilitators who can give their opinion. But of course, I would love to.
But your name is in the report, because there's a top favorite podcasts that people report back that tell us are their favorite podcasts on facilitation. And this podcast is right there in bronze in number 3. So
no, really?
On the podium. You didn't know?
My God,
she really didn't know this.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know at all. I think last year I was not even in the list.
That is true.
Here. Oh, I'm so happy. This is my. You made my day. You made my day.
So something else that's maybe good to know for people listening. We are recording this a day before the report is actually published. So when you listen to it, you can go and check it out. But Nathi hasn't seen it yet. So Can you see that? I am sharing my screen for people listening. And
oh my God.
there it is. She gets a little
So
burst of confetti that says it's a new entry.
Thank you so much. This is really rewarding because for myself, I mean, there are a lot of podcasts outside, but when you are a podcaster, you and me, we are talking, but we don't have any really connection with the people who are listening. So this is always a big surprise to see. Of course, I see that people are listening more and more. So it's nice. It means we need to continue this.
Yes, absolutely. So there. So the report contains information like that.
Yeah.
Such as people's facilitators' favorite resources, books and podcasts and newsletters, but also data on what kind of events people held in the past year. And this year, we also added a bunch of open questions. What is your vision for facilitation in the future? What do you think the impact is? So it's a very big report. So sit down, get comfortable, scroll in and read it. You can download it in PDF or you can read it online. And it's divided by sections. So you can go straight to the section that you're more interested in or take a look. In general, we try to put something in there for everybody. Again, for people beginning who might want to know what resources to look at, but also for people who are far advanced in their careers and might want to know, what's the next thing on the horizon? What's the next growing trend or niche thing that might be interesting to them?
So you're sending it through the channel of SessionLab, but also it's more spread and spread. How many people responded and from where?
So about 1,050 people responded to the survey this year, which is great. We always want to go at around or above 1,000. And really thank you to everybody who took the time to answer the survey. We know it's a long survey. It's also true that all the questions are optional, but it is a long thing to go through and it really requires a bit of thought and reflection, looking back on your year. We try to make it interesting also as a self-reflection tool. Yeah. You mentioned this, that you go through it and you look at the resources listed and you find
learn
that
so
interesting.
much. Yeah, so much just by filling it out. So
yeah, we get that feedback. And then as for the report, I don't know this year, but last year, over 8,000 people looked at it. Now, looking at a thing online can just be a very quick look, but that's a nice number. I mean, 8,000 people looking at a report, I was happy. And I hope we go beyond it this year.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure. And so let's talk about how facilitation is evolving. And I just wanted to start with a self thing that I recognize as I was in my family for Christmas. I was looking with a friend of mine on different job announced for it was project managers, innovation managers, team leaders. So he was looking for a job. Yeah. And I was looking with him. And what I saw suddenly is that in a lot of these announcements, you could find that organization ask for skills in designing and facilitating workshops or trainings. So it was the both. I was very happy and very surprised that it suddenly was in all these job position, because a year ago it wasn't. Facilitation was not a word that was common or something a corporate were searching for. So this is something completely new. And I wanted to ask you, how does the 2025 Facilitation Report reflect this growing recognition of facilitation skills in organizations?
Yeah, I'm so glad you noticed that. I also think that trend is visible around me, but it's not true. I've never seen it so starkly. So there's various places where this emerges from the report, but I also want to share a personal story, actually. So just last week, I was training. So I often train newcomers to facilitation inside. So not people who enroll to courses individually. I've done that in the past, but I'm not doing that now. But I am hired by a couple of higher education institutions and I give courses to their students. So these are not people who deliberately signed up to do facilitation training. They signed up to do, in this case, it's peace and conflict resolution training. And then I'm part of their curriculum. So I appear and I'm like, okay, now you have to learn facilitation, which up to last year, people were like, I spent the first lesson being like, what is facilitation? So up to last year, the first lesson in that course for me was, what is facilitation? Who is a facilitator? What does this word mean to you? And I started that lesson last week and the 20 people in my room already knew.
Yeah.
So we pivoted straight to tools and divergence and liberating structures and other things. And that was very surprising to me. And it's another indicator of what you're saying. Facilitation is going a bit more mainstream. One of the people who filled out this survey, one of the respondents, used the expression democratization of facilitation. I really like that.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yes.
indicators that facilitation it's still a profession that professionals do exclusively, but it also is a skill set that is getting disseminated in the workplace. So we see that in the report in various places where people have talked about their vision. Many people talked about this kind of thing, but also I'm very glad that this year we decided to have a special focus. So we were afraid that the report might get boring because we're asking similar questions every year. What tools do you use? How old are you? Where are you in the world? But so we decided to add some questions that gave special focus this year. And this year we chose in-house facilitation.
Mm-hmm.
So when I use the expression in-house facilitation, I mean somebody who is hired in a company that maybe does not do consultancy and facilitation at all, but is in, I don't know, healthcare or construction or food industry, whatever it is. But the people there are hired to do what you said, to do workshops, or are team leaders who also have facilitation skills. So I was very curious to know more about what their life was like. And there's a whole section, what industry are you working in? What department? It's often learning and development. So shout out to all the learning and development friends. It seems to be the place where facilitation enters companies. One thing that was super interesting is that the main answers about how large these companies are there either very small companies, so like 6 people, which are probably consultancy companies or companies that deliver workshops, or they are huge, like huge multinationals, over 5,000 people, where there is enough resources to have a dedicated department of workshoppers or L&D people who do that. So I think the next thing is going to be all the mid-sized companies getting on board and being like, oh, we need these facilitation skills as well. And I think we're going to see more of what you saw, like facilitation being, I always say, like using Word, like using Excel.
Yeah. Like if you have all the skills as a project manager, now you need also to being able to design and facilitate sessions. I'm just thinking that this year, for example, this is the first year that I delivered a program which was combining the foundation of facilitation, how to practice it, and then also mentoring sessions. So it was a whole program. I delivered it for the innovation department in a big company in Paris, and for governmental institution in Asia, for the people who are leading, like it's not a workshop, but it's like conferences with governmental people on politic things. They want also to make this conference more interactive. And they got also such a program to how to do that. So how to facilitate such events. So it's true that this is the first year that where I delivered really training about this.
Yeah.
For these people.
You are so on trend and on point. It's the same for me, actually. This year I'm going to be also training a large cooperative, and they want training for their whole staff in basic facilitation, and then training for all their leads and project managers in more methodologies.
Yeah.
And I really think this is where it gets super interesting for professional facilitators. And it's also very hopeful, because if anybody's listening and has the idea like, oh, if facilitation is becoming a more mainstream skill, then what do I do? I have spent 20 years honing this skill at professional levels. So what do I do? And I think it's fine, because we're going to be asked for more trainings. We're going to be asked to upskill staff a lot more. So I think that direction is a smart one for people to go in. And then also the aspect of larger meetings and events. I think that if company staff is trained in a bit of facilitation, they will know when a more professional facilitator is needed, because the event is large, because the stakeholder environment is complicated, because maybe they want to relax and take part. There's many reasons. And if you don't know what it is, you don't even know that you can ask, an ATHI for some extra support.
Yeah.
I also want to say I love that you're doing government work. This emerges from the report as it's not being done as much as in private companies.
Yeah.
Basically, there's many points of the report where it indicates that like public work and government work is very low in the data sets, and I'm sorry about that. So I hope we can do more. And some respondents also wrote like that they wish they were more focused on facilitation in public organization, public bodies.
But I just got a message from my brother 2 days ago. He's working for a minister in France, and he told me that they have a specific department for training, and they train about facilitation. So I don't know how is the training. So this was my curious question. I would like to know how they train them. But I know that they have specific department like learning and development department to do that.
Yeah. And in fact, the Association for Public Participation is present in the report as one of the communities and associations people are part of. So it's not that it doesn't exist. I didn't want to say that, but it seems to be not as popular, or maybe not as many people who are doing work in public bodies are answering our survey. I didn't answer your question about where people are answering from. We definitely have an overrepresentation of like the US and European countries, although people have been answering from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we invited people, if they wanted to answer in their own language, to do that, because now we have tools of artificial intelligence that help us translate. So I was very happy to read answers in Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, Japanese, Italian, and Swahili.
Swahili?
Yes. I think that's how it's pronounced. I hope it is. It is the language spoken in Tanzania and Kenya and other African countries. So that was really cool. We tried to reflect that in the report as well. There's some direct quotes.
Yes,
and we tried to use.
Yeah, I saw
many
a few
languages.
quotes, and you have this in the original language and then in the translated in English. So
we try.
Yeah. So what trends highlighted in the report should facilitators be preparing for in the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, big question, huh?
Big question. Okay. Go read the report for yourselves. Don't just listen to what Deb thinks is important. That is certainly one thing. Facilitation entering companies as an in-company skill. And what does that mean for people? Well, AI, of course.
Yeah.
There is another special section about what are facilitators using AI for. And I mean, certainly, if you haven't been at least playing with it and familiarizing yourself with it a little bit, I think you should, because it's at least to know what people are talking about and at least to make an informed decision about whether you want to use it or not. Don't give up at the first try. There's plenty now of supporting help and materials. Of course, our dear Alexander Isestetter has commented on the AI section, and the AI Tinkerers Club is kind of partnered with the report together with the IAF and Exchange. So they did some extra help to help us formulate questions on AI that made sense and interpret the data. So learn something about AI, tinker with AI, play with AI. Don't be scared of it. It's fine if people decide not to use it in session, but at least to know what they could do with it. And then there's changes that are reflecting the trends that have to do more with practice.
Mm-hmm.
One, I think we really need to discuss as a community, which is how sessions are getting shorter.
Yeah.
So we asked people how the length of sessions they have typically led during the year, and the number of people who is leading whole day sessions or half day sessions is decreasing.
Okay.
In favor of more and more short, bite-sized 1 hour, 2 hour things. Mm-hmm. So do you see that? And what does that mean for you? Because I think that's an interesting thing, but that needs some unpacking.
Yeah.
Do you have this experience as well?
No, for me, this year I was booked for 1 or 2 days workshops most of the time. So I had bigger projects where companies or the governments detached their people so that they can concentrate on how to build. So it was really a combination between training and workshops. It's true that I have now requirement from Germany where they have a big projects starting, really a transformation from one system to another. And they have project managers, and they would like to have during this project for specific milestones, specific workshops. So I think these workshops will be like 2 or 3 hours or a regular workshop each week. So maybe, but last year it was not the case for me. For me, it was more big events.
So these kinds of long workshops, like 1 day, 2 day offsites, I think are what many of us are used to.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they're still around because they really allow for like in-depth change in people and for people to really get comfortable, and they create a kind of different atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really glad they still exist. And it's not, the report doesn't indicate that they don't exist, just that they're decreasing in favor of the more modular thing that your German clients are asking for. And I just think we need to be prepared to, on the one hand, deliver modular training or facilitation. So do things not as a one-off, but as a series of shorter things. There's many reasons, I think, why companies and clients have been asking for this. Some is the online world, some is attention spans. And then I don't know, but this is happening. And then the other thing is, if we really think it's important to gather the people together and spend a whole day, we need to be prepared to articulate why very well. So it's not a given. It's not what people will ask you. And then you're like, okay, it's like you have to really explain to your clients why it's important, what value, what extra value that brings, and why they should, let you play with their team for a whole day and gather them together in a nice hotel or something for the purpose, because it's also more expensive, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also very important for facilitators to then, when they have an in-person event or a bigger workshop, to debrief after and to show what are the next steps you could do together, so that you are like an accountability partner, and that you are checking, okay, we have decided this and this during the workshop. What happens since then? What actions have been taken or not? Why? And okay, so maybe we should rebound on this and make a shortened session or stuff like this. So I try to keep my clients by offering them practical, shorter sessions afterwards, even if it's remotely. So it's nice also to have an in-person event so that you can build trust with them, but then you have the connection that allows you to have engaging also virtual sessions. Sometimes it's easier when you saw the people before. So
Very
yeah.
true. And you also touched on, so this point of follow-up and how to keep momentum was actually named as the top one challenge for facilitators in 2025. That's changed. Last year, people reported their top one challenge as keeping up with the trends, probably because it was the first year we had AI. So people were like a little bit frantic about, what am I going to do with all this new stuff? And this year, they reported as the top challenge, keeping momentum after sessions, keeping the impact and the energy going. So that's something to chew on. I think, how am I going to help my clients with follow-up sessions, mentoring, all that? Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is something that you need to talk to your client from the beginning. If we want to realize really and make the most of what we plan to do in the workshop, I think it should not stop with one session. So maybe if it's a question of budget, also see all the things to how long you want to work with your clients, so that you not push up yet the price on the beginning, but having things recurring. This is my strategy.
I agree. And I think it's one of the good, my favorite thing is if after the report, people make thoughts and discussions and maybe changes to what they're doing. And I think this is a great topic to focus on. If people are saying it's a challenge, then how do we solve that challenge? What can we do? Exactly as you said.
So we talked about one of the challenge means keeping momentum with the clients. Is there any other challenge that was mentioned in the
loads? Let's see if I can find the screen I have with. Okay, so the top 3 challenges that people reported were keeping momentum after sessions, managing our own capacity, time and energy. That also is new. And I mean, there is a general sense of overwhelm everywhere in every profession and facilitation as well. So how to keep, our time and our energy going. And the third was finding jobs. We know it's a profession that it's kind of hard to enter and start getting those clients and start getting referrals and start being well known. And then once you are, you probably have too much work to handle. But before you're there, it can be hard to penetrate the market. Last year, the report focused a lot about this. How do you start? And turned out it's a referral-driven business. By the way, the past year's reports are still online. If you want to refer to them for anything, you can still easily find them. But this year, those were the main challenges: follow-up, energy, and finding jobs.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you? Would you say those are your top challenges?
Yeah, I think finding client. I think it's as a freelance facilitator myself, it's hard to be on every front. So you have your clients, you need to find clients, and And of course, dear energy. This is a topic we were talking about in the last episode with Emily Gardner, who is launching her book, The Path of the Guide. And one of the section is about managing energy, but not in the sense of managing just the energy of the room, what we are all talking a lot about, but also managing your energy, because we tend to think that we have to go in a session and give all our energy. So that we talked about with Emily, that when a session is over, like a one-day workshop, I like to spend time on my sofa and look at Netflix and not think at all because I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Because we tend to forget that we are not here to bring all the energy, but it's a given and taken. So a reference to this, The Path of the Guide from Emily Gardner is coming out in March. So look at it. Good point about energy.
And I will listen to that episode. There's this whole thing, I hope I can articulate this well, but that's emerging from our conversation and from things I know that are in the report, which is all about what happens after. So there is this note that follow up and keeping up momentum is hard for everyone, that keeping our energy is hard. And I also tend to crash after workshops. Also, this might seem different, but I think it's the same. I look at the table on resources and tools.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people using great resources for design, for whatever happens before. And there's software companies, including SessionLab, creating tools especially for the preparation side. Then there's a lot of tools for delivery if we're doing it online, from Zoom to Butter and Storms and all of that, all the tools that can help us deliver. And then there's a section about what tools do you use after the workshop? For whatever happens after, for evaluation, for reporting, for reflecting. And that section is scant. Like, so many people say none.
Oh, this is a good point, because this is a good point. I think it's so important, the debriefing. It's so important to know how to do after a workshop. It's so important to know how to articulate an email which can be very, very friendly, and where you can give even a little bit more that what the client was asking, and plan the next session or a debriefing with a template. Okay, what worked well for you in the session, but also after the session? What was the challenges after the session? Because most of the time I recognize, they were all very enthusiastic after this session, and actually nothing happened because the daily routine comes back. And this is where we need to pick on it. So I didn't think about there is not so much resources. So I have some.
Please, I think the report indicates, and I also think we need to put a bit more attention and energy in what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
I think there's many reasons why we don't. Maybe it's human nature. Maybe because freelancers, we're thinking about the next contract. We're not negotiating a contract at that point. So maybe our attention is going somewhere else. But I think we really should pay more attention to everything that happens afterwards. How we report, how we debrief, how we give ourselves feedback and Netflix and cuddles and spas, and how do we maintain the energy in us and in the client and in the whole process. Actually, I think that's what we're saying, is that it kind of goes boom, and it really, really shouldn't.
Yeah. And so we spoke at the very beginning about the podcast. We saw the podcast list. Is there any new resources or new thing that people like to use? I don't know, books or specific courses, or I haven't seen the reports so far, so I don't know anymore what was in the survey. I filled it out 3 months ago, I think so.
Yeah, I know. It takes a long time between
when we ask people.
I know. So it's maybe interesting just to know that the way we compile these resources lists is not random, is we take answers from the previous years and submit them again in front of people. So this is what you said were the favorite resources last year. Which of these are you listening to this year? And of course, there's always space to add some more. So we put podcasts, newsletters, and books. And we have, the top ones aren't changed. So we should say, so Miriam Hadness's Workshops Work is still everybody's favorite podcast. And Miriam is so gracious to do the introduction to the report this year. She has a section on vision. So it's the very first thing you will meet. And I loved reading it. And the top newsletters is our own SessionLab newsletter.
Nice.
So That's, of course, a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because that's where many people read about the survey. But still, we are happy that it's useful. We try to make it useful. And then we have a few new entries. So you have raised from not being on that chart to being straight to number 3.
Yeah.
So good for you, Kathy.
Nice.
And Kirsty Lewis's A Facilitator's Journey is also up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Facilitators like podcasts. And as for books, we put a list of people's most recommended 10 books. They are kind of the classics.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many other recommendations as maybe we only quoted once or twice. But there you will find like Priya Parker's The Art of Gathering and, of course, Game Storming and my personal favorite, Sam Kainer's Facilitator's Guide to Participatory Decision Making. So that's a great place for beginners to look at that list and be like, okay, these books I need on my shelf.
Yeah.
And then there's lists of communities that are maybe unsurprising to people who are aware of what communities are out there, but it's a great place to go and see and be like, okay, so these are the main facilitation communities. Let me see if I can join them.
And maybe
so I think
the
no big
tools,
surprises and
maybe
tools.
the tools like, I don't know, whiteboards or any other tools that maybe appeared.
Yeah, well, the big surprise, it's not a surprise, but the big changes in the tools section is AI. So ChatGPT was there low in the data last year. And this year it's like people are using ChatGPT a lot, especially for planning and designing. Let me see what else was interesting or surprising in terms of tools. I mean, there's little things that facilitation geeks might be interested in, like Miro and Mural used to be head to head, and now facilitators seem to prefer Miro.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it's mostly, I think, a list that's good to take a look at and see, is there anything there that I don't know yet, that I'm not familiar with yet, and can I take a look and learn how to use it? Yeah.
Okay, so there's so much things to read. How long is the report? How many pages?
That depends what screen you're looking in on. So it's less than 100 pages, I will say that.
Okay. And one last question. Do you have a section where we can see what organizations are asking for workshops? So I'm not talking about training right now. I'm talking about problems to tackle.
Well, not in the sense you say, which seems to be about the future. It's very hard in a survey to ask questions about the future, but we do ask people what kind of workshops they led and what kind of organizations they worked for. So that tells you something. The most popular area of workshop seems to be around ideation, brainstorming, creativity. So it is likely that indicates that companies mostly will ask for the support of a facilitator for that part of their work. So it helps. And then training. So as we've said various times in this podcast, training and supporting their staff. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so I have now, we were talking about the AI Tinker Club. I don't know if you see, but I have the cards here. Maybe it's too little.
Yeah, it's small, but now that I know.
Yeah, Alex is my co-designer because I'm asked to run 1 or 2 day AI adoption workshops for business impact. So these are workshops that are for me coming this year. It was not planned at the beginning. So I like AI, but I like DEI, and I like, actually, this is what I loved in the survey, what popped up to my eyes. Wait a moment. I will just look if I can share my screen here and here and here. So this is the State of Facilitation 2025. And just this sentence, human-led, tech enhanced. It made me smile because this is exactly what I think we should do. We are here to guide people, but also to embrace new technologies. So it's not about just AI in your facilitation, but also knowing that this is a topic that will be asked. So if you are interested in AI, you can become an AI facilitator. There are now also certification for this. And for me, it is my new topic for this year with the help of Alex as a co-designer of these sessions.
You guys are lucky to have one another. There's a couple of things I want to say in response to that. One is, so yes, it took us 40 minutes before we got to the title of this year's report, which is Human-Led Tech Enhanced.
Yeah.
And this comes from our analysis, in part helped by OpenAI's ChatGPT, of 800 responses that people took the time to write to the question, what is your vision for facilitation in 2025? And there were, of course, very varied responses, and you can read a bit of analysis in the report, but there was a vast majority that focused on this. What is the interaction between all this new tech, AI, and also software, and the fact that the core of facilitation remains extremely human and very much having to do with our communication interactions. And so how to put that in a concise way that made sense. And we landed on this, human-led tech enhanced, and I'm very, very happy it resonated with you. And I'm very happy that's what you're doing. That is what your work is right now.
But this is this. If you want, so I'm working for teams. I want to help teams better work, be more productive, and building well-being workplaces. So if you want to do so, of course, you have to guide the humans, but you have also to help them embrace what is happening in the world and what are the new ways of working. And AI is a new way of working. And the point is that most of the companies are completely overwhelmed with what is happening because it's going so quick. And they think that just giving access to a corporate ChatGPT is enough. But if you don't know for what you can use it or what are your own use case in a department and how do you delegate some of your tasks in a good and safe way to ChatGPT, then you miss something. This is why I think that we can make workshops and trainings to help people adopt this and combine and also reorganize teams, because of course some tasks will not be done by humans now. So how do we organize our work so that we can concentrate on what really matters, and how do we do that? So yeah,
that really is the overall picture that emerges from the report. It's like how to focus on the human, but never forget the tech, like really become guides to the tech as you're doing, or at least very literate in the tech, knowing how to use online tools, offline tools, but at the same time, without forgetting that the core of facilitation is really about humanity and presence and listening. And that makes it a future-proof profession, I think, we hope.
Yeah.
So that's super important. I know we're running out of time, but there is one more thing I wanted to say.
Tell me. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So I'm very happy that there's a new thing we've introduced in the report this year, thanks to the ideas, a brilliant mind of learning designer extraordinaire, Romy Alexander, who added these. Yeah, if you know Romy, you know why she laughs. She's like, Romy is a superstar, shiny, happy person who adds a lot to all our lives. So she added these sections that are now what? So as in what? So what? Now what?
Yeah.
Reflection cards. So as you read the report, you will find these cards with guiding questions and we've called it facilitation forward. So the idea is to answer questions that can help you kind of turn the report into an action plan for your work as a facilitator going on. And we will also have a social media campaign. So you can go to SessionLab's LinkedIn or Instagram pages, and you will find a hashtag facilitation forward campaign with some little prizes, so that if you want to keep your reflection cards for yourself, great. But if there's something in there that you want to share with the world, you can type it. Yes. And we will send some of you some branded notebooks and things like that. So there will be a little raffle for anybody wanting to share their reflections. And of course, the raffle is just an excuse because we would like to create a space for people to share what are their plans going forward next year. How are we going to co-create a human-led tech-enhanced facilitation community in the coming year? Exciting? Are you going to join our campaign?
Absolutely exciting. Absolutely exciting. And you will come again next year.
I hope so. I have to think about a focus for next year's report. This year was in-house facilitation and also AI. Do you have a sense of what we should be focusing on next year?
Yeah, if you make AI facilitation and in-house, then we could focus on how to make facilitation a career as a freelancer, and how you can work everywhere, from everywhere, or with every teams. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, so it would make sense. I mean, this year we looked a bit more at the life of in-house people. Maybe next year we might look a bit more at the lives of these exciting globe-trotting freelancers we've got. It's possible.
Yeah.
We'll see. Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. Thank you very much, Deborah. It was really a great pleasure to have you here. And yes, I will read the report. I had my little good news, my big good news today for the podcast. So thank you for this. And yes, say hello to all the SessionLab people who have worked on it. Thank you for all your engagement.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody for listening, to all the contributors and the designers and the people who help us do this. And you really shouldn't thank me for being the top 3 third most listened to podcasts. You should thank yourself and your guests, because we just collected the data. Okay, we didn't do anything to put you there. You just happened to be.
Okay. No, but thank you for bringing me this surprise during the recordings.
Okay. Sure.
Bye-bye, Deborah. See you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye, Nathi.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't hesitate to contact our guest. You'll find all the information in the show notes. And hey, if you like the content of There's a Workshop for That, please give it a 5 stars on your podcast app. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, La Workshopeuse. Also, I'd love to read your comments, suggestions of guests, or any question you have. For this, use the form called Hey Natty in the show notes. And until our next episode, I wish you good health, success, and lots of happiness. Au revoir!